The moment took everyone by surprise when Karoline Leavitt suddenly became overwhelmed with emotion, breaking into tears as she made a major revelation about her husband. It wasn't just the significance of her words, it was everything that had led up to this pivotal moment. Just 4 days after welcoming her child into the world, she had already returned to one of the most high-pressure jobs in government. Now, she had to find a way to juggle the demands of new motherhood with the intense pressures of being the youngest White House press secretary ever appointed. With her emotions on full display, she was about to share something about her husband that no one had foreseen. And as she spoke, one chilling phrase gripped the audience. "This is a disaster." It was a clue that what she was about to disclose was far more significant than anyone had imagined. Very few had predicted that Karoline Leavitt's rapid ascent in politics would one day lead to an intensely personal and deeply emotional moment concerning her husband. At just 27 years old, she had defied expectations and rewritten political conventions. When she assumed the role of White House press secretary, a position traditionally held by seasoned veterans, it was clear that history was being made. But she wasn't just there to do the job, she was there to transform it. From the moment she first stepped behind the podium, it was evident that she had no intention of merely replicating the approaches of those who came before her. Unlike her predecessors, who often found themselves on the defensive with the press, Leavitt took a different approach. She came prepared to challenge reporters, call out bias in the media, and set a bold new standard for engagement. Her very first press briefing lasted an impressive 47 minutes. Longer than most introductory briefings, and it wasn't just a demonstration of her confidence, it was a statement of intent. She wasn't just stepping into a role, she was taking command of it. She handled tough questions head-on, standing her ground against seasoned journalists like NBC's Peter Alexander. From the very start, she showed that she wasn't going to be intimidated by the high-stakes nature of political media. Many critics expected her lack of experience to be her greatest challenge, but Leavitt proved them wrong with an unwavering sense of authority. The message was undeniable. She was not just there to occupy a seat, she was there to redefine the position. But Leavitt's rise to the top wasn't by chance. She had been preparing for this moment long before anyone knew her name, ensuring that when the opportunity arose, she would be ready to seize it. Originally hailing from New Hampshire, she pursued a degree in communications at St. Anselm College. It was during her time there that she first discovered her deep interest in politics and media strategy. Her professional journey started in the Trump White House, where she served as an assistant press secretary, eventually advancing to the role of national press secretary for his 2024 campaign. Her unwavering commitment to Trump's movement, combined with her ability to navigate the high-speed demands of political messaging, made her the ideal candidate when the administration sought someone to lead the press office. What distinguished Leavitt wasn't merely her youth or her aggressive approach. It was the way she redefined political communication. She recognized that the media landscape was undergoing a dramatic transformation. Traditional news outlets were losing their grip, while independent journalists, social media influencers, and podcasters were amassing unprecedented influence. Instead of conforming to legacy media, she concentrated on engaging with these emerging platforms. Her mission was clear: to make sure the administration's message reached audiences that mainstream press had long overlooked. This wasn't just a minor shift. It was a groundbreaking overhaul of White House media strategy. Under her leadership, the press office embraced figures who had never before been granted access to high-level political briefings. Conservative influencers, digital content creators, and podcast hosts suddenly found themselves seated alongside traditional media representatives. While some viewed this as a gamble, Leavitt saw it as a logical move. To her, it was obvious. Millions of Americans were turning to alternative sources for news, and the White House had a duty to meet them where they were. Her unconventional approach drew significant attention, with White House Communications Director Stephen Chung lauding her first press conference as the most successful to date. The statement sent shockwaves through Washington, forcing even skeptics to admit that she had reshaped the press dynamic in ways few had anticipated. The long-standing model, where the White House adhered to the mainstream media's rules, was now a thing of the past. Under Leavitt, a new precedent had been set. Of course, her rise to prominence wasn't without its share of controversy. As a young woman in a highly visible position, she faced intense scrutiny, not just for her political strategies, but for her personal life as well. Her marriage to Nicholas Richo, a 59-year-old real estate mogul, became the subject of relentless gossip. Detractors fixated on their 32-year age difference, while others dismissed it as irrelevant. Yet, through all the noise, Leavitt remained unshaken. She had more pressing battles to wage. Her rapid ascent wasn't solely about proving her capabilities, it was about fundamentally altering the landscape of political communication. As she commanded the stage at some of the nation's most closely watched press briefings, exuding the confidence of a veteran, one thing became unmistakable. Her success was merely the first step. What no one foresaw at the time was just how much further she would go. Yet behind the scenes, she carried a hidden weight, one that was about to take the spotlight. What she would expose about her husband would leave even her most devoted followers in disbelief. Everything shifted with a single event, the assassination attempt on Trump on July 13, 2024. The world was frozen in shock as gunfire shattered the air at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. In mere moments, chaos engulfed the scene. Standing before an ocean of supporters, Donald Trump was hit by a bullet. The attempt on his life sent ripples of fear across the country. It was an unimaginable moment. Secret Service agents surged forward, desperate voices echoed through the turmoil, and there stood the former president, wounded but unbroken. This was more than an attack on a man. It was a strike at an entire movement. For Karoline Leavitt, the event struck closer than most could understand. She wasn't present in the crowd, nor was she anywhere near Washington. Instead, she was at home, holding her newborn son, just 3 days old. She had only turned on the television expecting a standard campaign rally. What unfolded on the screen shattered every expectation. Over and over, the footage replayed. Trump, injured yet standing strong, his supporters crying out in shock, and a bullet barely missing its deadly mark as it grazed his ear. The weight of it all crashed down on Karoline. She was a mother, holding a fragile new life, yet she was also a fighter caught in the center of history. For months, she had fiercely defended Trump as his campaign spokeswoman, battling relentless media scrutiny. But nothing had braced her for this. Then, in the eye of the storm, she made a choice, one that few new mothers would ever entertain. She turned to her husband, Nicholas Richo, and with unwavering determination said, "I'm going back." 4 days. That was all she allowed herself. Just 4 days after childbirth, she was back on television, back in front of cameras, and back in the fight. The public reeled at the sight, her body still healing, her son barely a week old. Yet for Leavitt, there was never an alternative. The president had risked everything for this election, and she was ready to do the same. Later, she shared her thoughts, saying, "The least I could do was return to work as soon as possible." Her choice wasn't solely about devotion. It was about duty. To her, Trump's survival wasn't just another moment in history. It represented perseverance, grit, and unfinished business. If he could take a bullet and still press forward, then what reason did she have to step back? But re-entering the political arena came with its own struggles. The heavy responsibility of being a mother collided with the relentless demands of her job. As she stood before the nation at the White House podium, deflecting sharp questions, her mind often drifted to the child she had barely begun bonding with. Walking away from her baby every morning to fulfill her role was painful. "It breaks your heart," she admitted, but she didn't allow that to stop her. A key figure behind her ability to return so quickly was her husband. Nicholas Richo, a man who preferred to remain out of the spotlight, stepped up in ways few ever witnessed. While Leavitt waged political battles, he took on the crucial task of caring for their newborn at home. His ability to adapt as an entrepreneur gave her the freedom to dive back into work without hesitation. The nation may have been shaken by the assassination attempt, but for Leavitt, it only strengthened her resolve. It reminded her why she had joined this fight, why she had set aside personal desires, and why she had endured sacrifices most people would never comprehend. And so, as she addressed the press just days after one of the most shocking events in recent history, she understood one thing. This was only the start. What the world didn't yet know was that beneath her poised exterior, something far more personal was unfolding. She wasn't just navigating the chaos of politics and motherhood. She was preparing to disclose something deeply intimate about her husband. This revelation, once made public, would inevitably become a major talking point. In the cutthroat world of politics, where every move is dissected, Karoline Leavitt's relationship with Nicholas Rio was bound to attract interest. Their love story didn't fit the typical Washington mold. It wasn't a strategic union built on networking or shared ambition. It was something entirely unique. They first crossed paths at a political gathering, an evening filled with formal handshakes, high-stakes conversations, and calculated networking. By then, Leavitt was already making waves in the political scene, thriving under the spotlight with effortless confidence. Rio, a highly successful real estate mogul, was her opposite in every way. Reserved, fiercely private, and a man who let actions speak louder than words, he wasn't interested in political fame. His focus had always been on building his business empire, far from the flashing cameras and constant scrutiny. Yet, the moment they were introduced by a mutual acquaintance, something unspoken passed between them. Outwardly, they seemed like complete opposites, but beneath the surface, a powerful connection had just begun. Leavitt, a young and ambitious figure, was known for her political fearlessness, while Rio, 32 years her senior, had built his success away from the limelight. Unlike most influential figures in the modern world, he had no interest in online presence. No Instagram, no Twitter, not even a LinkedIn profile. For someone of his stature and wealth, this was practically unheard of. What seemed like a stark contrast to outsiders was, in fact, a perfect equilibrium between them. While she thrived in the public eye, he operated best from the background. She had a magnetic presence that commanded attention, while he was more of an observer, content to watch from the sidelines. Their relationship defied expectations, making it a subject of fascination. The considerable age gap immediately fueled endless debate. Social media exploded with commentary, with skeptics labeling the union opportunistic and questioning its authenticity. Each time she posted a picture with Rio, the internet responded with a flood of reactions. Some ridiculed their dynamic with taunts like, "Is that your father?" While others took a harsher stance, commenting, "Your husband could be mistaken for your grandfather." Critics dissected their bond, often passing judgment. However, Leavitt refused to dignify the noise with frustration. She countered it with quiet confidence, writing, "He's my greatest supporter, my best friend, and the most incredible man I've ever known." Those who expected her to shrink in embarrassment had completely misread her spirit. Despite the relentless speculation, they focused on what truly mattered: their connection. Their love wasn't a spectacle for public entertainment. Instead, it was deliberate, private, and anchored in shared values. They had no interest in making headlines for their romance, a preference that suited Rio perfectly. Even their engagement reflected this quiet devotion. On Christmas Day in 2023, in the peaceful comfort of their home, Rio proposed. There was no elaborate announcement, no staged production for social media, just a heartfelt question between two people already sure of their future. By the following morning, Leavitt's joy was impossible to contain. She posted a single image of Rio down on one knee, the diamond ring catching the crisp winter light. Her caption was simple yet powerful: "The most magical Christmas of my life. I get to marry the man of my dreams. Feeling endlessly grateful. Thank you, God." Months later, their wedding followed, mirroring the intimacy of their engagement. Unlike the extravagant ceremonies typical of political figures, theirs was a small, secluded event, shielded from the public eye. There were no media exclusives, no leaks, and no spectacle. When asked about her wedding, Leavitt didn't issue a press release or give an interview. She simply updated her bio to one word: wife. Rather than slowing them down, marriage only propelled them forward. While Leavitt navigated the immense responsibilities of one of the most demanding political roles, Rio remained steadfast in his real estate empire. He remained in the background, never seeking public attention, never leveraging their relationship for personal gain. But his presence in her life was undeniable, always felt, always unwavering, standing beside her in the quiet strength they both cherished. Whenever she needed unwavering support, he was the one who stood firm. When Leavitt made the unheard-of choice to resume work just 4 days after giving birth, it was Riccio who ensured it could happen. As she addressed the press, he remained at home with their newborn son, maintaining stability amidst the chaos. Leavitt frequently speaks of him as her greatest source of strength, a man who expects nothing in return but offers everything he has. I constantly remind myself that this role won't last forever. It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance, and I have no doubt that someday our son will look up to his mother with pride. What the outside world failed to grasp was the depth of Riccio's sacrifices. He wasn't just a supportive spouse standing in the shadows. His presence in her life was far more profound. When Leavitt finally reached a breaking point and revealed an unexpected truth about him, the world at last comprehended the immense burden he had been shouldering. Never one to seek attention, Nicholas Riccio always preferred a life away from the public eye. While his wife shattered records as the youngest White House press secretary, he remained a quiet but unwavering force, maintaining his privacy and focus. Yet, despite his intentional retreat from the limelight, his story was one of incredible perseverance, ambition, and behind-the-scenes influence. His success story wasn't the conventional tale of a wealthy entrepreneur. Long before he established his multi-million-dollar real estate empire or became a respected name in conservative business circles, Riccio faced hardships that few would ever guess. At just 18 years old, he was left without a roof over his head, without a safety net, and with no clear sense of direction. Many in his position would have been consumed by the struggle just to make it through each day, but for Riccio, failure was never even a consideration. Instead of seeing obstacles, he recognized opportunities hidden in plain sight. With sheer determination as his only resource, he threw himself into hard work, saving every cent he could. By the early 2000s, he had already set his ambitions on real estate, with a sharp focus on the neglected, deteriorating properties of Hampton Beach, New Hampshire. While others dismissed them as financial dead ends, he saw untapped potential waiting to be realized. Starting from the ground up, he acquired properties in dire need of restoration, painstakingly revitalizing them into high-demand rentals. His formula was straightforward, but brilliant. Invest where others wouldn't, create value in overlooked spaces, and reinvest every dollar to build something even greater. By 2005, his efforts had paid off spectacularly. With an impressive portfolio of 15 buildings, 70 rental units, and a growing reputation as an investor with an eye for the future, his empire had begun to take shape. From that point on, his real estate ventures expanded beyond Hampton Beach, reaching new heights he had once only dreamed of. Rayo Enterprises LLC didn't just grow, it expanded at an astonishing pace. He systematically acquired properties throughout New England, never straying from his core strategy. His method was simple yet highly effective. Identify undervalued assets, transform them into high-demand properties, and always operate within sustainable limits. By the time the public became familiar with his name, he had already secured his status as a multimillionaire. But Rio's impact extended far beyond wealth accumulation. His real estate ventures evolved into strategic spaces, serving as hubs for political movements, especially within conservative circles. He wasn't merely trading properties, he was curating environments where ideologies could flourish and networks could solidify. One of his most prominent venues became the meeting ground for Women for Trump gatherings, an initiative instrumental in energizing female conservative voters. His influence didn't stop at property lines, it shaped the very foundations of political mobilization. Unlike the typical real estate tycoon, Rio wasn't just a dealmaker, he was a discreet architect of influence, ensuring his resources fueled something greater than personal profit. Even as his financial success skyrocketed, Rio never craved the limelight. While many wealthy entrepreneurs actively sought media attention, he chose the opposite route, staying out of interviews, limiting his public appearances, and avoiding social media entirely. For him, Success was never about vanity. It was measured in tangible outcomes. His reach extended well beyond business, subtly strengthening the conservative movement in ways few recognized. Yet, despite his preference for privacy, his marriage to Karoline Leavitt inevitably thrust him into public discourse. The difference in their ages became a constant topic of conversation, fueling endless speculation. Detractors attempted to paint their relationship as purely transactional, failing to grasp the genuine foundation of mutual respect and aligned values that bound them together. While Leavitt shouldered the immense pressures of a high-stakes political career, Rio dedicated himself to maintaining balance in their home. The moment their son, Nicholas Robert, entered the world, Rio didn't think twice about stepping back from his empire to support his wife's demanding role. For a man who had constructed an entire legacy from scratch, shifting priorities wasn't a burden, it was a testament to the depth of his love and devotion. Despite all his efforts to remain in the background, Rio was about to become the focal point of national attention. When Karoline Leavitt, overcome with emotion, shared a deeply personal revelation about her husband, it wasn't just about their relationship, it was about the unseen sacrifices he had made, the silent contributions he had offered, and the truth behind the man the world thought they understood. Her words left insiders in shock, proving that Rio's quiet presence carried far more weight than anyone had ever anticipated. For weeks, rumors had circulated endlessly, sparking curiosity and debate. Karoline Leavitt had been juggling the demands of motherhood, an intense political career, and the relentless judgment of the public. Despite the overwhelming pressure, she never let it show. Returning to work just 4 days postpartum had been a shocking choice, one that stirred controversy across the nation. But something about her demeanor had subtly shifted. Her sharp composure, her laser-focused delivery, her signature confidence at the podium, all seemed altered in a way no one could quite place. Then, in a moment that caught even the most seasoned journalists off guard, she suddenly broke down. The entire press room fell into an unexpected silence as Leavitt paused, taking a deep breath to regain her balance. Every camera lens zoomed in, capturing an emotion that was raw, unfiltered, and impossible to ignore. And then she spoke. "People ask me all the time how I manage to do this, how I balance this role, being a mother, and the constant scrutiny that comes with it," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "The truth is, none of it would have been possible without my husband." It was a rare, unguarded glimpse into the reality behind the polished image she had so carefully maintained. For years, Nicholas Rio had remained in the shadows, a powerful businessman, a devoted father, yet someone who had never sought the spotlight. But today, Leavitt was pulling back the curtain, revealing just how much he had given up to support her rapid political ascent. She shared a revelation that few had known. In the months leading up to their son's birth, Rio had made a deliberate choice to step back from his thriving real estate empire. He had quietly reorganized his company, reassigned responsibilities, and restructured his commitments, all to ensure their family remained strong in the face of her demanding career. "When I told Nicholas I wanted to go back to work right away, he didn't question it for a second," she disclosed. "He simply looked at me and said, 'We'll figure it out.' And he did." The heartbreak of leaving her newborn each day weighed on her deeply, she admitted. "I've told him so many times, this is hard. I feel awful being away from him. But knowing my son is with his father, knowing that Nicholas is right there every single day, gives me the strength to keep going." Her words painted an image of a man whose power wasn't just measured in wealth or business acumen, but in the quiet, life-altering choices he made for the woman he loved. In a political landscape where rigid gender roles often dictate expectations, Rio had redefined what unwavering support truly looked like. Their balancing act was not an accident. It was a deliberate, well-thought-out partnership. Every morning was a carefully executed routine, with press briefings, high-stakes meetings, and policy negotiations seamlessly woven into their responsibilities as parents. Rio ensured that no matter how chaotic Leavitt's schedule became, she never had to worry about their son's well-being. Even as he managed his business from behind the scenes, delegating decisions, reshaping strategies, and adjusting operations, his ultimate priority never wavered. It was a confession that left the room momentarily stunned. The press, known for its rapid-fire questions and relentless pursuit of controversy, was momentarily speechless in the wake of her words. The traditional image of power couples in Washington had always been predictable. Careers often collided with personal life, leaving one partner's ambitions overshadowed. However, Leavitt and Rio had taken an entirely different path, reshaping expectations in their own way. Her tears weren't merely signs of stress or exhaustion. They reflected a profound appreciation for the man who had sacrificed so much without ever demanding recognition. "I can only hope that one day, when our son is grown, he'll truly grasp everything his father did for us," she said, her voice still thick with emotion. As the press conference concluded, the impact of her words lingered. What had begun as a standard media briefing had unexpectedly transformed into something raw and deeply personal, an unfiltered moment from one of the most analyzed women in politics. As news of her revelation spread, it became evident that this wasn't just another emotional speech. It was a long overdue acknowledgement of a man whose quiet sacrifices had paved the way for history to be made. Yet even as the public absorbed the weight of Leavitt's heartfelt tribute, one pressing question remained unanswered. What impact would this have on their future? With Rio shifting his focus away from his empire and Leavitt standing at the epicenter of political influence, what awaited this unconventional power couple in the days ahead? The answer would catch everyone off guard. Karoline Leavitt's deeply emotional statement about her husband wasn't just a personal moment. It was a defining shift in the ongoing discussion about power, sacrifice, and ambition in today's political landscape. Together, Leavitt and Nicholas Rio had done more than just defy expectations. They had meticulously crafted a partnership built on intentional balance rather than competition. Their dynamic forced political observers to reconsider what true support in a high-stakes career actually looked like. The media, always hungry for debate, dissected her every decision. Was she setting an unrealistic precedent for working mothers? Had she given up too much in the name of political loyalty? These questions dominated online discussions, filled newspaper columns, and sparked heated debates on television. Despite the noise, her unrelenting drive did not go unnoticed. Supporters hailed her as a testament to resilience, a woman who refused to let obstacles stand in her way. To them, she was the embodiment of American grit, fierce, determined, and unshaken by convention. On the other hand, critics viewed her differently. They saw her as a symbol of a political machine that demanded too much from its people, prioritizing optics over real-world struggles. To them, she was not breaking barriers but reinforcing an unattainable standard. Regardless of the differing opinions, Leavitt stayed unwavering in her mission. She had no intention of becoming a symbol for working mothers or a figurehead for feminist movements. Instead, she remained laser-focused on her goals, doing what she believed was necessary, which only strengthened her influence. Her steadfast loyalty did not go unnoticed by the most powerful figure in her world, Donald Trump. The former president had always placed immense value on those who remained fiercely loyal through turmoil, and Leavitt had demonstrated her commitment repeatedly. From her role as his campaign spokesperson to her fearless interactions with the press, she had solidified her position as one of his most trusted allies. Publicly, he did not hesitate to sing her praises, calling her performance phenomenal, and making it clear that she was far more than a press secretary. She was an essential force within his movement. So, what do you think? Was Karoline Leavitt's choice to return to the White House just 4 days after giving birth a responsible decision? Drop your thoughts in the comment box. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay tuned for more updates.